Hey, so super windy out here today, but we're going to get some milling done. Super bright too, but try not to wear sunglasses while I'm talking to the camera. But anyway, we're going to start with doing a little tractor maintenance and then get this sawmill running. Have a good one. Okay, so on my tractor grapple that I use to move these logs, I've got my next log lined up, but it's got all these grease fittings on it. And I'm going to go ahead and grease all this and then grease all the front loader on this tractor. I have it set up, ready to go. So I really love these lock and lube connectors. If you haven't tried those, they make doing this a whole lot easier. They simply lock on to the fitting. And grease. Okay, before I get started today, check this out. So this little ball in the end of this crank, right, won't stay in that bolt. It comes out as you're turning it. And again, I do always push it in before turning it so the ball doesn't run on that groove. Now you can see there is a little line there, so I don't always get that done right, but that's always how I intend to do it. So anyway, you can order this new piece from Woodland Mills, and some people on the forums have said they'll send you one free. I haven't even called them, to tell you the truth. The other thing that I just saw on the Woodland Mills forum is Woodland Mills themselves are coming out with an electric saw head lift that will replace this crank. And I may or may not get that. I've seen a lot of people do it themselves, but now actually Woodland Mills is going to have one that's engineered and made for this sawmill, and that might be pretty cool. But what the forums say to do to fix this is to put grease in that bolt hole. The spring is in there, and then squish it. Put the ball back in. And then squish the end with a vice grip. So I'm going to try and do that. Let's see how that works out. Okay, that is full, pretty sure, without getting too much grease all over my mill. Drag. Okay. Now put the ball back in. Try and do this without blocking you guys' view, without letting my band-aid get too much in the way. Cut the snot out of my thumb last night. And yes, I do hate that. Okay. So now with the grease in there and that ball bearing back in there, they say take a vice grips, and I've got these needle nose vice grips, and crimp the end of that bolt. So that's what I'm trying to do. and that seems to be there. I think what I'm going to do is get a punch and a hammer and kind of peen that in a little bit. Okay, so I'll be right back. Okay, I almost forgot to hit the record button. So this ball bearing's in there, but it looks like it's not as shoved over as good as it could. So I'm going to take a small punch and just try and peen that down a little more. Maybe in 2 spots. Okay, I'm pretty sure that won't come out. I don't know if you can see that on a camera. I've got it zoomed in as far as it'll go. But I just put a dimple on the outside of that, shoving that in, and I'm going to do the other side of it too. So I'll see if I can get the camera set up for that. Okay, and I'll probably have to flip that around when I edit because I think it's going to be upside down. But I did the back side of that, and so now I'm going to do this side to get 2 spots where that's peened down. Get the punch in here. See if it's not totally blocking you guys. Let's see. Okay, I think that's a little better. Now let me try the vice grips one last time. Oops. Well, the vice grips seem to want to slide off, so I'm not sure that they're the right way to go for me, but that is what people in the forums have said works. Actually, that got a good grip on it. Okay, I'm pretty sure that's not going to go anywhere. So that ball now seems to be much better in there. It still works as far as this pushing against the spring. And you can see the little dimple I made. And that the ball is staying inside that hollow bolt better than it was for sure. More than half of it is inside it, which is what you need. Obviously, if the big end is past the smallest part of the bolt, it'll have to stay in there. So, okay, I'll let you know how that works. This is another question I get a lot. Right now I'm at 50.2 hours on this mill, and I'm going to say this has been actually not pretty much, this has been trouble-free. And what we're doing with this mill right now is milling the boards to complete our barn dominium house or pole barn house for metal sided house. I don't know, there's like 18,000 different things to say, but we had a 48 by 80 shell built and insulated professionally, and then we have built in the inside and finished it out, and we're using this mill to do that, and it's worked out great. Okay, I know I've talked about this and showed this before, but for refueling this, I haven't found anything as convenient as this little Harbor Freight fluid pump. Keeps me from overfilling the tank. But so I just put the hose in, turn on the pump, and fill it up. And I keep the level down about a ½ inch from the top, so that it doesn't vibrate out the vent when you start running. The only thing I don't like about this Harbor Freight pump is that it does use 2 D-cell batteries. And since I no longer use like the big mag lights and stuff, and nobody pretty much does, the batteries are starting to get a little harder to find than like triple A's or double A's or anything like that. And so they're also getting expensive. But I pretty much highly recommend using this method. This is the easiest method I've found to refuel this mill. Your miles may vary. Have a good one. Be safe. Okay, today, since I'm kind of just fine-tuning everything, and yes, I know the blade is rusty. I'll probably put a new one on as soon as I strip the bark off this one. But they say the width should be about a playing card, or not a playing card, but like a business card. So let me turn that around. I guess you guys don't want to see that side of it. Anyway, and the people on that side may not want to see it seen. Anyway, so basically that slides through, like I said, with just a little bit of resistance. So I'd say that's about the right thickness. This slides through, just drags a little bit. I'd say that's right thickness. That one drags just a tiny amount, so I might need to adjust that down. This one, that drags. That's good. I thought that was the one that was loose. That drags. I'm happy with that. I'm happy with that. I think this one is just a little too loose. Definitely looser than the others. You know what I'm going to do? Let's tear this card in half. Right, if it's supposed to have a plain card thickness on both sides. Not plain card, business card. So I think that's good. I think that's pretty good, but I'm going to tighten that one up just a hair. Okay, so with a 4mm Allen wrench, you loosen that Allen up and the side Allen bolt. So I'm gonna loosen these up. Letting that block drop down onto the cardstock, which is sitting on the blade. Okay, so I've got the Allen screws loose. They were 4mm, and I'm going to pry this thing up, this block, just to show that it's loose. Okay, so there's lots of gap. Put our business card in and slide it down till it touches that. Now then, with business card blade, business card guide, right, it should be the right thickness, the right gap. So I'm gonna tighten this one down. And then I'm gonna put this one back in and tighten it down. It wouldn't matter as far as doing the other things right if this is wrong. I love these sawmills, but one of the things that you've got to enjoy to be able to get the most out of them is tinkering with stuff. It's just part of the process. Love it. It's called why they call them a hobby mill, in my opinion. Okay, now we'll recheck. So that drags a little bit. Drags a little bit. Alrighty, so real quick, hopefully real quick. I know I get some comments sometimes that I spend too much time setting it up and not enough just milling, but anyway, so real quickly, I'll show you how I set this log up on the mill, and my goal is to maximize the number of boards that I get out of the log, as well as to keep the core, that center part, in the center so that it doesn't end up in my boards that I have that I'm putting on the wall. So what I do is I put the big end away from the mill head. One of the things this does, the way I set these logs up, they're 10 footers, and where I set them, this bunk, which is actually the second bunk, which never used the first one, but the second bunk is right here at the saw head. So I've got it is probably 3 inches away from that saw blade right now. So I put the log as close to the saw head as I can get it, and then the big end I put down here at the far end where it's poison ivy vine. And you can see, I think anyway, that last bunk, this bunk that supports this log continues down because this is the flared end of the big end of the log. So if it reached this bunk, it wouldn't even touch that bunk. Anyway, what I do with that is, if I can show you, take this level across these two bunks, and this is to show that that core is at about, it's 6.5 inches, probably 6.5 inches from the level, top of the level. Okay, so this log is, and this is a small end, it's right at 16. So go down to the other end, put the level in place, and then here is the center, the pith, I think is what they call that, and that is 6.5. So when I cut the top off of this and then rotate it around, I should keep my pith right directly in the center without having to have, which I'm kind of jealous. I like those bunks that have a little like floor jack thing on them to raise it up. But what I found is, for me, doing 10-foot logs on this particular mill, and the way the trees grow around here, which are all hardwoods, I don't have any pine. We've got about 250 acres, and I think there might be 1 or 2 pine trees on it. Pretty much everything's hardwood. So what I find is this method puts that right in the center. The other thing is, what I do is my first cut, which is on the small end, I watch Logger Wade's YouTube channel, and anybody that doesn't know, he and his family run a sawmill as well as log in this area, believe it or not. I think they're just north of here in Crane logging right now, and Crane is just a couple miles from here. But anyway, he said on his channel that when they do an opening cut on their big commercial sawmill, that they cut 6 inches. And so what I do is basically stole that advice, and what I'll do now, this one is the first cut. You can see I won't be able to get 6 inches without getting more than that. I'll probably come down here and my first opening cut is going to be about 10 inches on this log. But what I do is, if it's more round instead of kind of flat like this is, I go down to where this cut's going to be 6 inches wide, and then because this is the narrow end, I know the other end is going to be at least that much, and then I start rotating it around and making my cant. Okay, now to mill. So this was the first. The blade came off the wheels. I thought maybe it broke. Doesn't look like it broke, but it did come off the wheel. I don't think I was pushing that hard. It's kind of odd, but a lot of mass in that little wheel. So I'll put the blade back on and finish this cutout. This is smooth bark hickory. It's pretty hard. This one has been down for about 2.5 years, maybe 3 years. And I just went through that knot that you see where that limb comes off. And I was going slow because I'm trying to get the best cuts I can get. And I was torqued to 24 foot-pounds. And it seemed like the tracking was good. This is the second cut that I've got. But I'll throw this in and continue on. But that's the first time that's ever happened to me. And again, with all the guards and everything they've got on here, even though that blade popped off, I don't feel like I was ever in any danger. So kudos to Woodland Mills. Okay, so I've got the blade back on. I just went to flush with that handle, which in my experience is somewhere around just over 20 foot-pounds. The blade is still going through this piece of smooth bark hickory, so I pushed the mill back a little bit. I've got the blade on, and then I thought I would show you this. So now with the blade on and tensioned, the next step that I've always done is to spin the blade around. So with the blade back on and back tensioned, which I just went flush, which is about 20 foot-pounds is where I've found. I've got the blade back where it belongs on both wheels. This blade is still going through this piece of smooth bark hickory, which is going to complicate. What I normally do is then spin this wheel 24 times. Let's see if I can push this back just a hair more. Okay, so spinning it is pretty tough because it's still going through this piece of hickory, but it looks like the blade is staying where it needs to so it doesn't pop off again. And what I'm going to do, my plan is if I can get this last probably foot cut with this blade, I'll put a new blade on and tighten it down and do the rest of this log with it. Just wanted to show you that. So like I said, there's always a way around. Like I said, you gotta like tinkering a little bit. Okay, so I recorded that last 1 foot of cut, and I apparently got out of sequence of hitting the stop and go buttons on this, but you can see it did go ahead and finish out the cut. And what I'll do is I'll get rid of this piece of slab wood, and then I'll evaluate whether I need to put a new blade on, and also I will at least make sure the tracking's right. Alrighty, so this cut, you can see this knot. That's what it was going through when the blade jumped off. It's just gotten through there. So, like I said, this hickory is some hard wood, but it does come out beautiful. So anyway, this cant is pretty much totally flat on this side. It had a good cut. This one is flat until it gets to about right in here, and then it has a couple little dips. What we do is we run them through the planer and plane most of the board down, and then any of the low spots we hit with a sander, and we put them on the wall. Like I said, we're going for a rustic industrial, almost log cabin look inside, and it fits nicely with that. So what I am going to do is I feel it's starting to rain out here, so I'm going to cover this mill up, and tomorrow or the next milling day, depending on weather, is I will change the blade and continue on. Thanks for watching. See you tomorrow. Hey everybody. So this ended up being actually a couple days later. We had a couple days of rain, and then I had to work a couple days. So anyway, by the time I got back to this, I did go ahead and put a new blade on it. It had also warmed up quite a bit. It was actually pretty dang cold that last day I was milling. So today I'm running the fan. It's about 80 degrees out here, and that fan does wonders for keeping the sawdust out of your face, as well as cools you off when it's this warm. And I got the rest of this cut up, and we're putting those boards on the wall. Thanks a lot for watching. The rest of this is just time lapse of this log getting cut up, and have a great day. Appreciate you. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and share. We really do love your comments. Have a good one, everybody. Enjoy.
Yeah.